the festival, Amina Sayyed, and all her team of organizers for making sure that climate is the theme of the day. Because as Tarek said, what I am going to talk to you about is straight from the heart. I have left my speech, as always, at home, because I think you all deserve an authentic rendition of what I think is really happening to us, to the world, to our community, and to those who are the most vulnerable. To me, ladies and gentlemen, with your permission, Amina, climate change represents a total crisis of existential vulnerability. It is a crisis of many proportions. It impacts every single activity. You, your families, people all over the world, global finance, industry, manufacturing, agriculture, the coffee you drink, the shower you take. It will impact everything. And here I see urban elites who are empowered, in my view, to act as much or perhaps even more than the state. I say this because I'm not abdicating responsibility, no. I say this because everywhere in the world, climate action is never successful, nor does it yield optimal outcomes if citizens are not directly involved and see themselves as stakeholders. It's a whole of nation crisis, it's a whole of global crisis, and it needs every single person in their small increment or their large ambition to take action, to bring outcomes to the table, to educate their children about the possible futures they may face, and the dystopia you just saw that came to Pakistan's doorstep. I said over there very clearly, the world needs to see this because we are the ground zero of climate change. Why are we the ground zero of climate change? For 3 successive years, Pakistan has been home to the hottest cities of the planet. 53 degrees, 0.7 is not really fit for human agriculture, for industrial manufacturing, for any activity outside or even inside. Cooling, as you know, has its own urban cooling, rural cooling, has its own impacts. So every activity that human civilization has been undertaking since the dawn of the industrial age has an impact on how we will live, how will we experience the world in the future, and for Pakistan and for countries even in the Horn of Africa. Climate change, the next century, the 2050 that we were talking about, because the globe, the conferences, sets targets for reducing emissions. The reduction for net zero is 2050. We are the ground zero. Well before 2050, for us, and I made this very clear, climate dystopia is already on our doorstep. And it has disproportionately impacted us because we are not a big emitter. You saw footprint. Our carbon footprint is less than 1%. There are many reasons for that, good and bad, but there it is. That is a fact. And it makes us, I don't like to use the word victim, but it makes us a clear advocate for what is known as climate justice. It is not a new term to many of us. I wrote my first op-ed at the ProSin, which is a UN receptacle, 7 years ago. Exactly the same conditions are now wreaking havoc in our country. Weather patterns, extreme weather, you saw the glacial melt, you saw the forest burning. Karachi doesn't see forest burning, but the north does. From the Margalas to KP to Balochistan, we saw, I think, over 17,000 hectares, which is 4 per acre, of forest cover burnt. We cannot afford to lose forest cover. Why? Because forests constitute carbon sinks. What is a carbon sink? A carbon sink absorbs the poisonous gas, carbon dioxide, liquidly. The next poisonous gas that centuries will be talking about is methane. But right now, we are focused on CO2 emissions, which stay in the atmosphere even after you have ceased emissions. Please understand the scale and enormity of the global crisis that is already wreaking havoc on our doorsteps, bringing climate catastrophe to countries like Pakistan, which are not prepared, which do not have the resources to build or rebuild with resilience. And I'll throw some very stressful numbers at you, but I think you have a right to be cognizant, if not climate literate today, because it is what everyone needs to be. We all need to be climate literate. We all need to make climate impactful decisions in how much water we consume every day in the shower, men via shaving, women washing their hair, whatever. The amount of water you can save can actually save lives and save countries from Pakistan from a future of water scarcity. This video didn't tell you, but 2025, Pakistan is set to become water scarce. We rely, and it's a great irony of our times, that in many parts of Sindh, there was more water than the size of the United Kingdom, for instance. But it was not water that was usable, let alone savable for our future. So while there's water everywhere, there will not be a drop to drink. And you might become like some of the countries in South Africa, where there is water scarcity, water is rationed, water is priced, and then, obviously, in every such situation, wherever there's a commodity shortage, the elites get first access, and the vulnerable, the poor, the fragile are the least to obtain any of that resource. But water is crucial for life. To me, water is Pakistan's frontline climate emergency. And Pakistan is frontline in the world as a country experiencing the real and accelerated impacts of climate change. So for us, 2030 is the decisive decade, not 2050 like the rest of the world. It has to be 2030. All actions have to be taken within this decade, and it is the most dangerous decade for us also, because as countries, we do not, many countries, the developing countries, in shorthand at the COP system, at the UN system, now known as the Global South, which we had the honor and capacity to lead this time in large numbers, has actually obtained a small victory. It's a big victory actually. It is the creation of what is known in the UN system, in the climate system, as a loss and damage fund. Because we are sustaining losses and damages disproportionate to the amount of gases and global warming and greenhouse gases we emit. So it's a very simple equation. It's not complicated. There's a huge a backlog of a pyramid of science under it, but there it is. And so countries, say like in Somalia right now, there are children starving because for 2 years there's been no rain. And I do want to warn Pakistan also, particularly Sindh and Balochistan, because if you remember, before this cataclysmic torrential downpour from the sky came, Karachi was actually the second city that experienced the most. Sindh, as by and large, experienced 7 times more than an average, and the tragedy was that it kept on and on and on. Monsoons are not meant to be doing that. South Asia is no stranger to monsoon, neither is Pakistan. Why did this happen? Because the weather changed. It is no longer weather. These are extreme climate events. Part of it is the El Nino system, again driven by climate impacts. And this brings hurricanes, torrential downpours, and general cataclysm and apocalypse of the kind you see in movies. Now think about it, 33 million impacted. That is the size of 3 medium-sized European countries. How do you feed, give relief to, even provide humanitarian assistance for 3 countries, while you're drowning in both water and debt. You're drowning in both. And that is the existential crisis of our time. We all need a reset to our lifestyles, to how we allocate resources, to how we think about our present as well as our future. Now, I can go on about this for at least 35 minutes. I understand Amina does not have the bandwidth, neither do you. But I'm going to just say a few things that I want to share with you. That in obtaining a loss and damage fund, people should not think that this is some magical pot of gold that will unlock billions of climate financing for Pakistan. That's not how the UNFCCC system works. What is the UNFCCC system? It is the United Nations Framework Convention for Climate Change. It is now the biggest conference on the face of this earth. Always. There were 47,000 people there in Sharm el-Sheikh, and your delegation, the Pakistan delegation, was actually on its feet for 48 hours through the night, because decisions were being made, negotiations were last minute being triggered, and we could not afford to leave. All the big ministerials flew in at the last minute because they did not expect that there would be this level of commitment and stamina from the Global South. For us, it is an important political commitment from the Global North that this is something they need to acknowledge. So it's the beginning. It is the first step in a long journey where many better ministers than me will be fighting this battle at the COP27s, in the transitional committees, and making the rules for how this transfer of resources actually works. Obviously, as any woman will tell you, no rights are given. They have to be transacted with much blood and sweat, and you have to step out of your comfort zone. It can't be from your office. It has to be in gritty negotiations through the night with the support of civil society, with less developed countries, which were led this time by Bangladesh, and we were the chair of the group of 77 plus China, which is the largest group. We only had pavilions, as Tariq will tell you, because it's about how much you spend over there. The square meter depends on the amount of dollars you spend. And we had a small pavilion, thronged all the time. We didn't have offices. Big countries had offices. They had washrooms, they had coffee, they had food. So every time we went in for a meeting with, say, France or Germany, we would say, oh, we'll have the coffee. We would take the coffee, and they're like, yes, yes, of course. So this is how it works. This is how it needs to work. We need to put stamina and commitment into our agenda. We need to go to every conference with an agenda, not just go there. No, just showing up is not enough. Show up with an agenda. So when you go to work or school, showing up is not enough. You also have to do your bit. No amount of government action anywhere in the world will change our relationship with biodiversity, with the climate, with the environment. And that's what's wrong. Perhaps the pandemic also came to the world because of our transformed relationship with biodiversity. We've exploited the earth without check. And the Secretary General one day said, nature is angry, nature is hitting back. And let me tell you, I said this, Pakistan is no match for nature's war, for nature's anger against us. But it is actually not even nature. Nature resets very fast. It is nurturing. It is like a mother. 1 year you lower your activities. Anthropogenic, they're called, human activities. This is the era of the Anthropocene. You lower those activities and you'll see a change. We also saw a change. It was reported in the pandemic when there was less factories working, when there were less cars, less aeroplanes flying. The carbon footprint of humankind needs to go down. Our exploitation, unchecked, of Earth's resources must go down. So I don't think it's nature that's angry. It is what has created it that is angry. It is the climate. And the climate is not something we can fight. We need to negotiate and navigate it. Like we do a conference and say, okay, today I'm going to go home and not maybe throw down my car. I'll conserve my resources. I'll also teach my community how to do that. You'll be making a huge step. You'll be making a huge step forward, and alone in your washroom, when you make that decision and turn off the tap, you'll be making that big step, that concession towards an angry climate that says you've got to stop misusing, because the Earth's resources are not infinite. This is the caprice that human nature has gone on, the capriciousness and the arrogance of mankind. Not womankind mostly, because women generally conserve things. They work closer with nature, at least in the field. They know how to conserve even money. But mankind has done this. And what goes round, my slogan was, no ecosystem, no community will remain immune. What went on in Pakistan will not stay in Pakistan. So everybody has to take action and take cognizance. And secondly, so if one ecosystem dies, say in Sindh, by the way, interior Sindh's topography is completely transformed. Those lakes are probably not going away for a long time, when the Pakistan Navy was navigating what looked like huge oceans. No, many of those won't go because they are under sea level, and that sea level is rising as well as the land sinking. So it's a perfect storm, ladies and gentlemen. We have pollution in our cities. And those are created by us. Let's not make no mistake. That is not created by greenhouse gases. But it is the global warming. It is the 53 degrees coming to your doorstep, 4 heat waves this year. And then the snow melt. Most Karachiites don't know, like many of our foreign friends didn't know, that Pakistan is home to the highest number of glaciers in the world outside the polar region, quite majestic, and home now to a ruinous bit of tourism as they litter and leave. But it is the source of all our water. It is not rainfall. The glaciers are the source of the great Indus River, which transforms our lives, which has sustained civilizations, culture, humanity, agriculture, and livestock, everything. To this day also, the Indus River sustains 80% of our lives and our livelihoods. We can show you the direct impacts, because just for the climate catastrophe happened to us, my ministry and I were pitching a huge, ambitious project called the Living Indus. I'd love to share that one day with you. And we had created, it's regenerating the river, depolluting it near the cities it goes through, creating community ponds, regenerating it, and making sure the groundwater is recharged in various places. So we had made a menu of 25 interventions for communities, for big governments, for development partners to make interventions in. So you could pick and choose. It went from $11 billion to $18 billion. Well, all that money, even the seed money from my ministry for climate resilience, 160 million, it's nothing in the larger scheme of, has gone into humanitarian assistance. So I will leave you with this one thought, that the world has not still reset itself or created the resources that will fix either what is known as the race to 1.5, which is keeping 1.5 degrees to below pre-industrial levels. No, we are burning up, and we will burn up before others. So to us, when global emitters don't go down, it impacts us. Neither did the world make a big plan for global adaptation or countries to adapt. What that means is each country then is whether it's emitting less or not, it has to scramble to adapt to build resilience to the changing climate. Now, as we do that, just the funding for it is for Pakistan to rebuild is $30 billion. $30 billion assessed by the World Bank, you must have heard this figure, and $348 billion, $348 billion to survive the impacts of climate change, or to adapt, if you like, until 2030. Now, the trillions calculated at COP27 for the money that is needed, there are $6 trillion are needed for just the world to stop, to make switches to renewables. And Pakistan is doing that anyway because of our high import bills and the Ukraine war, the impact on supply chains for both energy and food imports. And we're having to import food this year because there will be a crisis of livelihoods because of the flood. You have the largest man-made irrigation system in the world, if you know this. That's through the Indus. The Punjab one was not impacted, but the Sindh one is almost practically destroyed. Rebuilding all of that will take amounts of money that is 1.6% the size of our development budget. So we're all going to have to work very hard to raise that money, seek that money. What would I do? Instead of panicking you, I will tell you what to do. Save the water, save your resources, make your companies go to net zero. We're working with private companies, all doing a Pakistan Zero program. What can you do? Because the catastrophe is coming. It will recur again likely. It will either be rain or it will be extreme desertification of the south, which is here. So the Indus River, if you remember, before the rains was bone dry. And that meant no crops. So there's a crisis of livelihood today in the country. People are going into winter still in tents. That's 1/3 of the 33 million are still out there. They have no homes where they live. They have no crop cover. They have no livelihoods that they depended on. So when we give them mosquito nets, it was tragic. They would cover the buffalo with the mosquito net because that's the predictable future for them. They're looking at predictability and a future where they might have an income. So it is a landscape of extreme tragedy, and it is a crisis of vulnerability. The fragile are the worst. The rich everywhere survive. We build arcs of privilege like they do in the north as well, global north. But that's never going to work. So what would civil society do? What would I do if I was not in government? I'm doing my work. I would set up a green climate fund for Pakistan. I would set that up, create a trust, and then I would, like many countries are doing, where the wealthy are doing that for their social responsibility. Set it up and see how you can assist small businesses in making those transitions. Some of them can't afford the technology that is needed for emitting less carbon, so help them. Many of them are those brick kiln owners. The government has actually done more than half. But no society is going to make this epic transition on its own. I honestly think the world financial system will have to be reset. The IFIs and the multi-MDBs as they're known, because now every COP is about climate finance. The intersex is on climate finance. Nobody has the money. Nobody. The system can generate it by resetting itself. But that reset will require a lot of lobbying and change. So while we're at home, and while you can invest in the small increment of action in your homes, in your offices, in your schools, anywhere you are an actor in public spaces, the rich and empowered of Pakistan can set up a green climate fund for the country. Give it equally to all the provinces, not equally rather, but by population. Like the NFC award, we can help you set it up. We can help you with the TORs and the mechanics of it. But that's really what's needed. Because if we don't take responsibility for our future, we will see more of these. Thank you very much.
And Sheri Iman for her profound talk on climate change. I think she's made everybody in the audience and promote it. And somebody, when I was walking up, who is a poetess, and you are wrong. All of us.
کیونکہ ہمارا شہر جو ہے وہ طرح طرح کی مصیبتوں کا کی آماد گاہ بن چکا ہے، اور کوئی خوشگوار اور ایک ادبی میلے کے سلسلے میں اکٹھا ہے. لیکن اب کیونکہ تقاریر ذرا لمبی ہو گئی اور بہت ہی اہم موضوع تھا سیلاب کا، جس پہ شہری رحمان نے آپ کو بہت اچھی طرح سمجھایا. اب ادبی سلسلہ جو ہے اس کو پھر سے شروع کرنا نہ صرف میرے لیے بلکہ آپ سب کے لیے مشکل ہوگا. تو اس لیے میں صرف امینہ کا بہت بہت شکریہ ادا کرتی ہوں، اور یہ کہنا چاہتی ہوں کہ اس طرح کے فیسٹیولز جو ہیں وہ ہماری تہذیب کو اور تاریخ کو مرتب کرتے ہیں، اور اگر آپ سب اس میں شامل ہوتے ہیں تو یہ واقعی خوشی کی بات ہے. اور خوشی اس بات کی بھی ہے کہ ایک ادبی جلسے تو ہمیں بہت حیرت ہوتی ہے، اور ساتھ ہی ساتھ حکومت کے لیے بھی ممنونیت کا جذبہ ابھرتا ہے.
کہ آپ کو سیلاب کے بارے میں بھی نہیں ہے. میری ایک نظم کا 2-3 ٹکڑے آپ کو سے نئے قصے الجھتے ہیں اور سنانا چاہتے ہیں جو اسی کو بھول جاتے ہیں، لیکن انشاءاللہ پھر کبھی صحیح اس میں بھی ایک ادب پنپتا ہے. چونکہ یہ ایک ادبی فیسٹیول ہے اس لیے اس کا تھوڑا سا ذکر کرنا ضروری ہے. دنیا کے بڑے بڑے ناول لکھے گئے، سارے ساحلوں کو کھا گئے، خیال کیا کہ خواب تک بھی زیر آب آ گئے. یہی بات ہے، اور یہی لفظوں کی بات تو